Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. Today I want to talk about my top 10 PlayStation 5 games of all time, at least so far. Since we're probably about halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through the console generation, there's clearly going to be some more games down the line. I will revise this list if I need to, if and when I need to, because I'm sure there'll be some other great games that need to make it onto the top 10. Maybe I'll make a top 15 later on after the console generation is over, but these are my top 10 for right now. Some honorable mentions I need to talk about include Sonic Frontiers, Sea of Stars, which is probably my favorite RPG as of late, Hogwarts Legacy, Deathloop. I have not played Alan Wake 2 yet. I've been waiting for the physical copy. I've not finished Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil Village, Death's Door, which is one of my favorite like isometric Souls-like games, and Demon Souls, which I think still might be the best looking game on the PlayStation 5. Easily a contender for the top 10. I really didn't want to leave it out, but there are just so many good games. Despite the PlayStation 5 not having a lot of great exclusives, or not a ton of exclusives, period, they do have a great catalog of games. So with that out of the way, let's get on to the list with number 10, which is going to be Returnal. Now this game is phenomenal, an actual exclusive for the PlayStation 5. It is now on PC as well, but for a console exclusive, this game marries roguelite with third-person shooter and action, and it does so phenomenally. I did a review on this game very early on in the channel. If you want to go check out one of my early videos, I gave this one a platinum rank for how phenomenal they married the action with the roguelike genre. I didn't know how it would really work in a third-person shooter, but they really did a great job with this, making the alien worlds really fun to explore. The boss fights phenomenal, the enemy design is really fantastic, the progression is really flawless, the lore is so much fun to discover. It's really fun to 100% this game. This is one that I just felt driven to keep going even after they added some DLC. I did everything in that as well. This game is phenomenal, and you should check it out if you have not on the PlayStation 5. Number 9 is going to be Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, I love Resident Evil 4, the original. It's one of my favorite games of all time, in my top 10, I think in my top 5, if not top 6. I love the Resident Evil franchise, and this remake did the original so much justice, and they actually improved on several things as well. They did a great job of not just straight shot-for-shot remaking the original game, but adding a lot of new things, a lot of new modern conventions that make the game really fun, maybe more accessible, and sometimes a much more difficult game, using the combat from like Resident Evil 2 Remake, so it's a lot harder to hit your shots instead of having that perfect aim from the original Resident Evil 4. They do a lot right in this remake. It's not my favorite in a couple minor areas. A couple of the boss fights don't feel nearly as good as the original, but really everything else about this game, they did a phenomenal job, so it's going to be here on the list. Number 8 is going to be Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. This game does visuals on the PlayStation 5 exactly right, in my opinion. They showcased everything the PlayStation 5 can do in terms of power. Utilizing that cartoon aesthetic as well, I think really helps. They have a lot more freedom in terms of how they optimize visuals and everything. This game also runs incredibly smoothly. I played this one, I believe, on like the frame rate mode instead of the visual fidelity, but when I would switch back and forth between them, there wasn't a huge difference in terms of performance. Honestly, the performance mode, I still prefer frames over like high graphical fidelity, but in the graphical fidelity mode, they did a really phenomenal job of keeping the game smooth. So either way you play it, you're going to have a great experience. And if you love the Ratchet & Clank series, this is one of the best things they've ever done. Introducing new characters, a great plot, wonderful weapons and everything. This really does everything Ratchet & Clank does well, to the best of its ability. I love everything about this game, and I actually really want to go back and play this one again. Number 7 is going to be Dead Space Remake. A couple remakes already making it onto this list, but for good reason. This one did everything right a remake should do, just like Resident Evil 4 in a lot of ways. I think this one's maybe even a little bit better because they did everything to make this game as horrifying as possible without compromising anything from the original. They don't lose anything from the original game. In fact, they improve several of the maybe little sore spots from the original and make them even better, make them more accessible, make them scarier. The combat is phenomenal throughout. The storyline even shifts a little bit. So even if you're like a fan of the original, if you're a hardcore and you know everything about the original game, they do a lot of things to subvert your expectations and make it so you have to be on your toes the entire experience. This is a very scary game, and I love that they utilize the visuals and the 3D audio of the PlayStation 5 to really make this as horrifying as possible. I'm so happy this isn't like a cross-generational game, because I think they were able to do so much more because of that. Dead Space absolutely deserves its place on this list. Number 6 is going to be God of War Ragnarok, the sequel to God of War 2018. Again, one of my favorite games of all time, on my top 10. Ragnarok continues the story in a very beautiful way. In fact, in terms of like evolution of the character with Kratos and everything, I think this is one of the perfect closes they could ever do for this character, including the DLC especially. They did so much to add some more nuance and more backstory to this wonderful character that we know and love. The game continues on the legacy of 2018 and does so phenomenally well. There are some sore spots. There's some stuff because it's cross-generational. You have some masked loading screens where you duck underneath something or crawl through a crevice in the wall. They fortunately fill a lot of these areas and times with dialogue from the characters, so you at least get something in return. That's the only real complaint I have with the game. Otherwise, the combat is really exceptional. They did a phenomenal job telling the story and bringing this to a huge climax. I love God of War Ragnarok. Number 5 is going to be Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. I love Jet Set Radio. That game is out of this world good. I played it on the original Dreamcast when it was Jet Grind Radio in the US, but I've played it again and again when it's been ported over to other consoles. I really love the Jet Set Radio series, and Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is a spiritual successor with the original composer coming back, and this game does everything that Jet Set Radio does, even better, I think, in almost every single way. It feels smoother throughout the entire experience. You have a little bit more leniency in your combo windows and such. It doesn't feel quite as janky. The skating in the original maybe was just a little bit janky at times. They really smoothed it out. This feels smooth as silk the entire experience through. I think the story is pretty fun. The cell shading really just is always aged so well, and it looks phenomenal on next generation consoles. I think they smoothed out the gameplay tweaks. They tweaked out some of the gameplay to make it a little more accessible, a little more easy. Instead of utilizing spray paint cans you have to collect and then use them up as you're actually spray painting things, you just have an unlimited amount, and then you can get things to upgrade your boost and such. This game just does everything I love about Jet Set Radio and just turns it up to 11. The music is out of this world good, as I expected it to be, and this one really could have been a nominee for Game of the Year last year. I really believe that. This is such a phenomenal game. If you've never played Jet Set Radio, or you've never really heard of the franchise, go out and buy Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. It regularly goes on sale, and it is so much fast, frenetic fun. Number 4 is going to be Elden Ring. Of all the Souls games, Elden Ring is probably the most accessible and also has so much content, probably more content than any other game in the entire franchise. This game, I think from start to finish, getting every single boss kill. I didn't go for all the endings or anything, but getting every boss kill, doing everything I could possibly do in a single playthrough, it took me 91 hours. I'm pretty good at Souls games at this point. I think Elden Ring is one of the easier ones for sure. There are definitely some bosses that are some of the hardest in the entire franchise, mostly optional ones, but this game can be incredibly punishing. But because it's so accessible, it opened the door for a ton of people to really enjoy this game. I have not yet played Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm very excited to go do that. It came out right before I was getting my physical copy of Baldur's Gate 3, which I am playing to death right now, so I will get to that eventually. I'll do a full review on that later on, but Elden Ring is so much fun. Everybody that asks me about the Souls games, is this going to be too hard for me? I'm you just need to play it and go and experience what a Souls game is, because this one, if you can get into this one, you can probably do the rest of them as well. This game is out of this world phenomenal. I love what From Software has done with this one. I'm glad that they put out a DLC for this, because I don't think they're going to do any actual sequels for this game. This one deserves to be very, very high up on every From Software list. Number 3 is going to be The Outer Wilds. This is a game I could have put on the PlayStation 4 best all-time list, but I decided to put it on here because I played it exclusively on the PlayStation 5, and this game is something really special. I did do a full review on this. If you want to check that out after this video is done, please feel free to do so. This game is really special. It's all about space exploration. You're just a little alien dude going on his first exploration into space. You can explore a bunch of planets. I won't give away too much about the plot, but some crazy stuff happens. A ton of lore dump comes on you the more you explore. This is one of those games that if you don't just experience it yourself, you won't understand everything that makes it special. But the more you explore, the more you figure out the puzzles on each area, the more you piece together what is going on in this world and trying to figure out why the sun keeps exploding every 22 minutes, why you're stuck in this time loop, why things are going the way they are. The more you experience from this game, the more you recognize how phenomenal and beautiful and brilliant this game is. Again, hard to explain. Go check it out. It's very cheap. They have it on pretty much every single console at this point. So if you don't have a PlayStation 5, go check it out on the Switch. This game is absolutely worth every bit of your time. Number 2 is going to be Disco Elysium. I had never really gotten into CRPGs in any capacity, but I'd seen the Disco Elysium was getting some rave reviews when it initially launched exclusively on PC, and then I saw that the director's cut, the final cut, was coming to PlayStation, and I saw that it was going on sale the first week. It was getting 10 out of 10s from pretty much every outlet, and I'm like, you know what? I'll try it out. I don't know what this game is. I'd seen some videos of it. I'd heard so much about it. I'm like, let's try it out. It was very hard to get into initially because I was not familiar with these RPGs and how they work and everything. Using a controller, it feels fairly counterintuitive. I could see why this game launched on PC exclusively first. It does feel like a keyboard and mouse game. But once you figure out how this game works, once you get past like that little barrier of entry, you have one of the most robust RPGs that is one of the most interesting experiences I have ever had in gaming. This game has climbed to my top 10 of all time faster than anything ever has before. I have never experienced something that has impacted me so hard. This is a very mature game, a very hard game to get through. There's a lot of like grotesque violence and like these horrible themes going on, but you're rewarded with this phenomenal story, something I don't know if I've ever really encountered in a video game before, where you play as a detective that is just failing upward. It's the best way I can put it. He just keeps failing, but the more you fail, the more you get toward your goal, and it's a beautiful thing. It's so cool. You think early on in the game that you might just be like this hidden super whiz of a detective, but really you're just this drunk guy that woke up in your hotel hungover, forgetting who you are, and you have to solve a murder and you don't know what's going on. There's so many twists and turns, so much legwork you put in. The more legwork you put in, the more the world opens up and becomes this horrifyingly beautiful thing. Again, this is another one of those games. It's hard to explain why it's so good until you actually go out and play it. This one is on my top 10 of all time for a very good reason. But my number 1, and this might be a little preemptive because I haven't finished the game, I'm not super close to finishing the game, is going to be Baldur's Gate 3. This game has taken the gaming world by storm. Again, this kind of RPG is not something I have typically played before, but man, is this good. I do love D&D. I've played a lot of D&D with my friends. I've been in a couple groups for campaigns. I love what D&D is, and this is the perfect encapsulation of D&D in like a playable video game. Not only that, it has one of the craziest worlds I've ever seen. It's so gorgeous, full of life. Every NPC that you go up and talk to, pretty much without exception, has like a fully animated like person-to-person conversation that you can have. Even if it's just one line recorded from them, there are so many lines of dialogue that you could just walk up to some random person, engage in a conversation with them, and like actually have a conversation. It's not just pre-recorded voice lines. You don't just have like a little text box that pops up for some NPCs. No, you'll get a full like cutscene with them. It's insane how much detail they put in this game. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I can see why they struggled to put this on like the Xbox Series S, because it like struggles a little bit on the PlayStation 5, and I imagine on the Xbox Series X as well. So the fact they're able to put it on the Series S at all is out of this world crazy. This game looks and plays phenomenally. It's one of the coolest stories so far, at least, that I've played on the PlayStation 5. It's got a crazy like narrative that you're going through, the divergent paths you can take. This is one of those games that you could play it probably 100 times and get a completely different experience every single time. You can go good, you can go neutral, you can go crazy, you can go like perfectly lawful. There are so many ways you could play this game, so many characters you could be. You don't have to just play as your player character. You can play as the side characters that you recruit. You can kill anybody you want. You can recruit pretty much like a ton of people. You can there's just so much you can do with this, and that's what I love about D&D is there's so much freedom to choose how you want to go about things, and Baldur's Gate 3 offers you all of those freedoms. If you can think it, you likely can try it in this game. You want to try and break down a giant door? Be my guest. You want to burn it down instead of looking for the key to unlock the door? There's probably a way to do that. There's just so much freedom in this game, and I'm so excited to keep playing it. There's just every time I pick up this game, something new happens that that stuns me, makes me excited to keep moving on. It's a really beautiful thing. So despite me not finishing yet, it's looking like the best PlayStation 5 game. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think, what your personal top 10 is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.